Well, it's finally here, and it's just as bad as I expected. So, Disney's recent live-action remake, The Little Mermaid. Why does Disney keep shitting out these half-assed, lazy live-action remakes that nobody likes? I already did a rant about Peter Pan and Wendy last month when that piece of shit hit Disney Plus. And you all know how much I hated Mulan and Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent. I still have yet to do videos for Beauty and the Beast and Alice in Wonderland and such, but I have done Cinematic Disasters episodes for Lion King and Maleficent, so you know how much I hated those. And I did a review of Mulan a couple years ago, and then I did Peter Pan and Wendy last month, like I said. And this movie's been getting trashed to hell by audiences, and rightfully so. I've already done a ton of videos on this, so... And I'm not sure if I want to keep this brief, because I want to talk about as little as possible, or if I want to just go as deep as possible. No pun intended. So, prepare for this to either be a 5-minute rant or a 30-minute rant. It could be one or the other. So, yeah, this is already awful. And the funny thing is that, just like I figured, the race swapping of Ariel was the least of this movie's problems. I'll start off with the simple one. The acting is bad all around. It's not just Halle Bailey. I don't know how so many sites have been praising Bailey's performance, because it is not good. But to be fair, nobody in this movie is good. And somehow the worst performance in this movie is... Well, there's two. There's Awkwafina, obviously. She's annoying as hell as Scuttle. But Daveed Diggs as Sebastian is terrible. His line delivery is terrible. He's not funny, for one. And most of his lines are ripped directly from the original. And that's another problem with this that I want to get into it a bit more. It is another near shot-for-shot remake of the original. Just like Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King were. Oh my god. So yeah, the acting's bad. Javier Bardem is not very good as King Triton. He's kind of boring. Jacob Tremblay, I guess, is fine as Flounder. He's one of the few inoffensive performances. Melissa McCarthy is fine. She looks and sounds the part for Ursula, I guess, but her performance was still just kinda... It was fine. I don't like Melissa McCarthy at all, but her performance was fine, I guess. It was one of the better ones. The guy who plays Eric is extremely wooden and doesn't have much personality, but to be fair, neither does the character. Nobody in this movie has any fucking personality, unlike the animated version. And I knew I was in trouble very early on, obviously, because not only is the CGI in this movie some of the worst I've seen in the past decade, especially during Under the Sea. I remember there was a couple of shots in particular where Ariel was, swimming around with some, dolphins during Under the Sea, and the CGI was, unfinished. The CGI on all of the mermaids, not just Ariel. The only mermaid or man that looks even remotely okay is King Triton. Hell, were there any mermen other than King Triton in this movie? I could probably say no, because they don't want men in this movie, so probably not, but all of his other daughters who show up, they look just as bad, and Ariel's CGI is fucking atrocious. It's the uncanny valley crap that people have been complaining about since the first trailer. And again, it doesn't look finished. And everything is so dark in this movie, and I know why. It's dark because they're trying to hide the bad CGI, but the people who work on this movie don't understand is that putting CGI in the dark makes it look worse. You cannot hide CGI. Putting bad CGI in a darker environment just makes it stick out more. But the idiots who made this movie don't understand that. And there's some basic logic issues that they don't understand either, like the fact that birds cannot breathe underwater, but apparently Scuttle can in this movie. How? I don't think they realize that just because it's called a seagull, it doesn't mean it can breathe under the sea. And again, like I said, this is a basic shot-for-shot remake with only pointless bullshit added. This is the same thing that happened with Pinocchio and The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. The shark attack is identical from the original, but it's like the slowest chase I've seen since the ship chase from Last Jedi. It's pathetic. And there are so many scenes that are just line for line from the original source material. Like, they keep, just like Lion King, they keep the wrong things exactly the same, but when they make changes, all they do is add pointless shit to pad out the running time. Like, the extra songs they added for Ariel, they're just inner monologues. And that says, and all that tells me is that they didn't trust Halle Bailey to be able to emote enough to get the audience emotionally invested, so they had to give her these songs as inner monologues. That's all that's telling me. And they're just here to pad out the running time. And Eric's song, which I kind of gave a pass when I talked about the soundtrack, listening to the movie, God, it's terrible. And his singing is not great. His singing is pretty shaky throughout the entire thing. And I almost had a seizure when Scuttlebutt started playing, because I tried to forget that song, but I about left when the song started playing during the movie. And I even wrote on my notes over here, at some point, I think it was even before Scuttlebutt, that I literally wrote, I want to kill Scuttle. That was how bad Awkwafina's acting was, and how annoying this character was in this movie, that I wanted to fucking shoot this stupid bird. Part of Your World, I almost fell asleep during. I was bored as hell, especially since, again, I couldn't see anything. The shots in this movie, especially the underwater shots, are so fucking dark, I can barely tell what's going on. Like, the actual theater was lit better than this movie. And Under the Sea was still bad. They wanted it to be like Aladdin's Friend Like Me, because even the people who didn't like the Aladdin remake acknowledged that Friend Like Me was very well done, and it was, and they wanted to replicate that here. But again, there are basic logic issues here. Like, apparently Ariel doesn't get stung by touching the bottom of a jellyfish. Bullshit. And again, I mentioned this in the video I did on the soundtrack, that having Ariel sing along completely destroys the entire point of the scene. Because the entire point is Sebastian convincing her that the surface world is bad, and she wants to go after the surface world, and him trying to convince her that that's not a good idea. Having her sing along just completely negates that point entirely. And again, I mentioned this in my review of the soundtrack. But if you wanted to add her in it, do something like what West Side Story had with America, where she's the Bernardo of this, where Sebastian's singing why it's great under the sea, and she brings in a counter-argument as what the problems with living under the sea are. If they had done something like that, I would have actually been on board with that. But no, they shoved her in just because we need to have our black Ariel sing as much as possible, I guess, because her acting wasn't compensating for it, because she's bland as hell. And, speaking of black Ariel, for some reason Eric's mother is black too. You figure that one out. And again, Kiss the Girl is so poorly lit as well. I forgot about that, because that scene, that's one of the best scenes in the original movie. And again, they changed lyrics so it can be about consent. I guess Ariel can just tell him that it's okay. Oh, wait. So yeah, the political changes to the lyrics are still garbage. And again, the new songs aren't very good, and Scuttlebutt can burn in hell. The actors have no chemistry whatsoever. They tried to do what they did with Aladdin again. I'm comparing it a lot to Aladdin because it's very similar. Like, they even were both released on Memorial Day weekend. But not only is Aladdin kicking this movie's ass with the international box office, and this movie only beat Aladdin by a couple $1 million domestically, and Aladdin, I think tripled what this movie made its opening weekend overseas, but not important. But they tried to do what they did with Aladdin and Jasmine, where they try to add these extra scenes to build up their chemistry, but the actors in this movie don't have any chemistry. This came across more as the added scenes from Beauty and the Beast than it did from Aladdin. Just here to pad out the running time and to give the illusion that these characters have more chemistry than they did in the original, and they don't. And the worst thing in this movie, probably, is the climax. Now, again, it is line for line, beat for beat, exactly the same as the original. And that's my biggest problem with this, is that it was the same thing with Mulan. Like, they were trying to tell us, oh, it's this new version of Little Mermaid, and it's beat for beat exactly the same. And they wanted these feminist messages saying, oh, she doesn't need a man. Again, I mentioned this before, but isn't the entire point that she needs the man to kiss her in order to keep her from essentially dying? But again, these people, I don't think, actually watched the original movie. So, the climax of this movie is beat for beat exactly the same. Ursula gets the trident from Triton, and she grows really big, and she's stabbed at the ship. Not only do they make it Ariel who drives the ship into her, and what's Eric doing during this? Fumbling around like the useless sack of shit that he's been the entire movie. Eric does nothing in this movie. Like I said, he's a useless sack of shit, and Ariel has to be the one to kill Ursula, while the man dangles on the ship like a narcoleptic moron. And again, I already thought this way of killing Ursula was kind of lame in the original. They made it so much worse here, because with the shitty cinematography, it being so dark I can't see what's happening, and the lame-ass sound design, because the sound effect of her getting stabbed sounds like she just got poked with a needle. It was the lamest fucking ending. And then again, the ending is line for line exactly the same. And again, that's something that pisses me off about these Renaissance remakes, except for Aladdin, because Aladdin, it's the same story, but it at least added more dimensions to some of these characters. Like, it added Dahlia to try to give Jasmine someone to talk to, like, to give her more character. They gave Jafar some backstory. They tried to do the same thing with Ursula, but it was no different than the original, so it was pointless. And Poor Unfortunate Souls was very poorly sung. I didn't care for that scene at all. None of the musical numbers were very enticing in this movie. And again, compare this to Aladdin. Yeah, Mina Massoud and Will Smith weren't exactly the best singers, but they were having so much more fun with it. They were a lot more fun to watch than the people in this movie. I will watch Mina Massoud's One Jump Ahead over Part of Your World every day. Oh, for fuck's sake, I will definitely watch Will Smith's Friend Like Me. I will watch that 1,000 times before ever watching the Under the Sea of this movie. Or I'll watch Prince Ali over Kiss the Girl, like anything. I think I'll go watch Aladdin to cleanse my palate after watching this piece of crap, because, oh my god, I hated this movie so much. And again, it's not even the political aspects of this movie are the least of its problems. But even though I put this on my community tab, it's gonna be all the people calling me racist in the comments, and you know what? Bring it on. I don't give a shit what you call me. This movie sucked balls. This movie gets an F. Fuck this movie, and it is by far the worst one of the year so far, because it's infuriating. It's beat for beat, exactly the same, just done infinitely worse. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna watch Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters to cleanse my palate. So I'll see y'all next time. Bye.